Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is an amendment gave us a lot of thought. I want you to understand where I'm coming from on this. We've had very little discussion about revenue. We've only talked about the appropriations, spending the money we have now. We have not had a lot of dialogue from Ways and Means on this budget. I know Chairman Hildebrand's been out ill, but we've had lots of discussion in Ways and Means, and I want to make a couple of points and tell you why I believe Jim Pitts should adopt this amendment. The revenue that we're working with is based on a biannual revenue estimate that made some projections in their model, and there are two things that are very important. One, the model by which they were basing this revenue off of assumed that oil would be trading at $70.73 a barrel. Last Friday was trading at $104 a barrel, which means there is excess revenue coming into the state that we can use for our budget for these goods and services, and not having to make these tough choices and these ugly votes and robbing Peter to pay Paul. A second important aspect is the fact that revenue projections have come in 3 times stronger than what they based the revenue estimate on. So in other words, sales tax revenues are aggressively coming back, outpacing the model at a rate of 3 to 1. 64% of the revenue in the state comes from sales taxes. So the point being, when Governor Perry says that our state is strong and robust, well, he's right based on this revenue estimate. He's right based on these facts, but we're spending money as if oil is trading at $70 a barrel and people are not out there buying goods and paying sales taxes. And what also troubles me is that you hear on the other side of the chamber, you hear our Senate through the voice of our Lieutenant Governor saying that they are fully going to fund the foundation school program. We just made huge cuts to that on Friday. He also says they're going to fully fund the $1 billion to our elderly, which we just cut as well. And so what I'm asking in this amendment is that we just take a prudent approach, look at a third option. I'm asking that we cut our revenues in 2013 by 50%. We cut our appropriation. So in other words, we have an 18-month appropriation. And we come back, if the governor wants to bring us back, we come back, we spend that last 6 months based on the adjustments in our economy. If they are going to track the price of oil and be consistent, we'll have more money to spend. We can restore the pain. If sales tax revenues and revenue stays at that hearty rate, outpacing the model at 3 to 1, we'll have more money to spend. So we won't go home telling constituents we had to cut, when they come to find out not only did we have money in the rainy day fund, we also had money in GR that we could have used. I don't want to take that risk. I don't want to go home and tell my constituents that we voted for a budget with all these cuts when we left money in the cookie jar. I want to make sure that we spend everything the comptroller tells us, but unfortunately the model has not kept up with the pace of our economy. And so this is what this amendment does. It just cuts the appropriations from 24 months to 18 months, gives us the option to come back. And, of course, if the governor does not want to bring us back, well, we know that LBB, we know there'll be a supplemental. We've been voting on one since I've been in this chamber. We just voted on one last week. And so with that, I would like to think it'd be acceptable to the author.
Recognizes Representative Pitts.
I move to table because you're front-loading the budget. And, you know, there's been some talk to do just a one-year budget, make it look real good, and then we come back. We don't have the money. And this is an 18-month budget, and we need to go ahead. And I'm trying to determine if there's law that says we have to do a 2-year budget. But it's tradition that we do a 2-year budget, and I move to table.
Chair recognizes Representative Martinez-Fischer to close.
Thank you for that articulate explanation. I mean, it's very simple. It's very simple. The model that the comptroller used to come up with the money we're spending assumed that oil would be $70 a barrel. It's $104. You can look it up right now. And it also assumed that we'd have certain revenues.
But they didn't.
And today, those revenues are outpacing the model at a rate of 3 to 1. There is nothing, and you've heard nothing, there is no requirement that we have a 24-month budget. They'd like us to have one. All it says is we have to spend in the second year. So I'm being generous saying, let's do an 18-month budget. Let's look at the economy, and let's not make a rush to judgment. I see the looks on your faces, both sides of the aisle, that you do not like these votes. You do not like these cuts. You know, some of you have told me that personally you feel that you want to be, voting another way, but that you have committed to shrinking this budget because that's the reality. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not the reality.